Muchísimas gracias, Luis. I have Brother Phil Goldvard Jr. with me today in this virtual gathering. They're actually by the fire and about to go into an inipi with some relatives, and I'm just really grateful. Okay, breathe. Really grateful that this is coming together. Thank you, Drusilla. Lucky, if you would like to say some words here to the relatives that have gathered with us. And I have my clapper in hand and the sage and the copal burning. And if you can just lead, I will be with you, brother, in this song.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Phil Goldvard Jr. They call me Lucky though. That's not because I'm lucky gambling either. Anyways, I'm very grateful and honored to be able to share a opening song. It's a spirit calling song. It's for all things physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to come together and to welcome to the gathering, whatever it may be. We always start this song with the flyer. So at this time, I'm at an EP right now at a sweat lodge, get ready to go in. But I'm very happy and honored to be able to share a song with the rest of my family here, even though I don't know you. You're still part of my family. And so at this time, I'm going to start the song. It's a welcoming song, and it's a true Michigan, California song. Hey, 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 hey,
Oh, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much, Luis. Phil, I wish you well, and I thank you so much for that palabra and that welcome to be in a good way with all of our relations, Patwin, Nistaman, Maidu, Miwok, peoples, and I wish you well into that circle. Oh.
Good night. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Here we go, folks. Hello, Maestro Brian. Take it away, Luis.
Hello, thank you very much for connecting this elder to do this opening blessing. And today, this is the last talk of this series, the Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx Mexican project that bring together different artists to do artist talks, a panel discussion, and also a virtual exhibition. And tonight we're happy to have here Jennifer Andrea Porras. And yAyA is a queer two-spirit Coahuiltecan descendant Chicana, madre of yAy'a Amaru, cultura, cura, curator, producer, intersectional artist, documenter, and theater maker. Recent third-year fellow of the Intercultural Leadership Institute and current 3200 Broadway Resident Curator in Oak Park, Sacramento. They received a Bachelor of Arts from California State University, Sacramento in theater and dance, focused in ethnic and cultural anthropology, centered in Inter Tribal and AfroLantix, gente, y movimientos. Porras is a co-founder of Movimiento Molcajete, Teatro with a Twist, and Master Art Series Art Nonprofits, Mastery Art Series Arts Nonprofits in 2018. Dedicating to support performance, research, and practice by women and queers of color, honoring the full spectrum of cultural and gender identities. They are an arts administrator veteran with 15 plus years of working with La Raza Galeria Posada, Teatro Campesino, Washington Neighborhood Center, Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission, Friends of the Arts Commission, Metropolitan Arts Partnership, Federal Campaign Fund, California Arts Council, and an arts practitioner, a producer, and activist for 24 years. Welcome, yAyA, for this day. Thank you. And I pass the microphone to you, and just let me know when you want me to start sharing the images. We cannot hear you.
Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you everyone for your patience in letting me have this yet again. Haiteca, Mexicateca learning curve here. And Luis, are you able to access these slides? Hello, gorgeous. So happy to see you all here and be in community with you all. So yes, I was thinking that maybe it would be a little bit boring to look at my face while I'm talking. Thank you, Amy. And so I put together a little bit of a collage for you of photographs documenting many of the circles that I've been afforded to be both student, teacher, mentor, mentee in, instigator, documenter, performer, collaborator, and dreamer, right? So yeah, I thought that would be a little bit better than staring at my face the whole time. So there's about 80 of them, and if you could just kind of put it on autopilot, I thought of answering the questions for you. Luis, I think the first one is a feather flying on a stick in trees. It's in Auburn. And that's the first one. I'm not sure what's, we have Soul Collective and Identity Statement up right now. I don't know if you could see that. Did I do something? Did it come through?
Just a second.
Okay.
Yes, a second.
So,
let me open the.
No problem. So maybe I could start answering the questions, and then when you get it going, those questions can cover my face, and then the images will kind of be a rolling visual track to me answering the preguntas that you sent my way. There we go. Okay, and let's see if I can see my full screen. All right, so one of the questions that was asked for me to share today with you all to speak about was telling you a little bit about my career, but Luis just did a phenomenal job of reading quite a few things off. And I think also there's the world according to Andy Porras, or AKA Pop Pop, as we like to say here in the Casa Porras in Oak Park. Um, and they claim that my career started as an infant tagger on the walls of the UFW, the walls that were a little bit too bare. He says either I was on a campus or I was in union halls, airports, and he would find me with crayons and with markers at the time. I'm not sure if they had Sharpies just yet, but they had something. And he said I was constantly tagging little UFW eagles everywhere I went, as a little chamaquita, a little, and you can just put it on auto or roll or slideshow. And if it repeats, that's totally fine. And so, yeah, I think they claim that's when I started on my career, because they said you didn't wait for permission. You did what you did, and you asked, if you had to deal with permission, you dealt with that later. So sometimes that gets me in trouble, and sometimes it keeps me at the right place at the right time. And where a lot of that started happening was in San Felipe del Rio, where I come from, where my parents' peoples come from. And then Coahuiltecan family is a little bit deeper in the interior there in Ciudad Acuña, Coahuila, Mexico, hence Coahuila, Coahuiltecos. So after learning how to march before I could walk, and there's my little one kind of learning the same thing. And I say that because I started off in a lot of movement circles, whether for the farm workers, for civil rights, for persons with different abilities, for immigrant rights, for food insecurities, etc. Like I grew up on marching on my father's shoulders before I knew how to walk, right? And then when I could walk, then I got to march alongside them, and that really informed my practice, my teaching, my way of approaching work that I make, work that I do, work that I participate in. Leaving Texas, where I had my start in dance, whether it was folklorico or flamenco. Then I went into things like ice skating in San Jose, and karate, and gymnastics with a beautiful Russian maestra who had been able to stay here after being part of the Olympics lifetime. Those were other places where I kind of learned to run around, right? And upon coming back to Texas, there was never a moment when I didn't miss. Is there something on my side that's making that sound? Do y'all hear something, or is it only me? Hear something. Luis, do you have can you check your mute, Luis? There you go. Awesome. Sorry, folks. Thank you, Luis. So upon coming to Sacramento for the earlier years in my life, I came to, of all places, Sacramento State University as a 13, 14, 15-year-old. And at the time, I was coming because there was a conference called the Chicano Latino Youth Leadership Conference that would congregate gente from all over California, young people. And they were coming to meet art makers, policy makers, educators, performance artists, theater folk, comedians, etc. And that was very instrumental for me because it made me think and believe in my young naive way that if I attended Sac State, I would be a part of this like wonderful circus, like for as long, for my college career. And in fact, what ended up happening was it wasn't like that all the time. It was like that because a conference was happening on the campus. That's not what the campus culture was like, but it had already put that seed in my mind that that was going to be my version of, at the time, many of us were in love with someone by the name of Lisa Bonet, and now everybody's in love with their daughter. And so I thought that was the campus where I would see folks that looked like me and maybe thought a little bit different than me, but I could create and collaborate and make this new world with, imagine this new place, right? And that wasn't the case. And I had to find those clusters on campus. So I found those clusters in the art department, in the dance department, in the theater department, in the anthropology department, ethnic studies, etc. And I landed amongst young students that were about to graduate, but they were about to graduate with a wonderful feather or pin. And that was that their time in claiming and organizing and leading the move for a little place called the Multicultural Center was going to open. And believe it or not, I was a freshman, and so I became like the little sis to all these folks that I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, this is what I wanted to come to college for, what that little center was about to just give life to. And so I thought, I'm not in the wrong place, right? But that meant I had to leave the dorms and head out to the place where the Filipinos were gathering, the Chicanos were gathering, the Blacks were gathering, the Native American Student Alliance was gathering, right? To make it a place that would not allow me to leave the way my teachers were making me feel I had to leave. My teachers were telling me I didn't belong there, I didn't have what it took to be there, and that I would never, succeed, right? They were saying, go back to the fields. And it wasn't until I was able to finally connect and be with the teachers that told me I needed to be there. I want, that they needed me, people like me to be there. That once I was connected to them and in their classes, then everything was okay. Then those were the professors that, challenged me in the best way possible to make me sharpen up, to stick around and to make differences like that center, on a larger scale. And so as a freshman, I got to open up, got to be part of the group of people that were still doing their very last of the protests, like all night readathons, so we could get enough books for the place, so that we could open the door and we have our own, safe space there. And those people were people like Olivia Castellano and Simón Valadez and, Jose Montoya, and Mariana Rivera, and wonderful people like that, and Manuel Pickett, of course, who I'm still working with to this day. And, they really made me feel like I belonged, right? They really said the words that I needed to hear in order to feel affirmed, in order to not quit and not run away and not drop out. There are times that I had restarts, of course, but they were very instrumental. Oh, and of course, hello, Mama Linda. Mama Linda, I always said, beautiful mother, her name was Linda Goodrich, Dr. Linda Goodrich, right? So because of folks like that, that's why I still continue to support the peoples at that school. And, one of the later teachers that I had there, or mentors that I had there, I saw is Dr. Elaine O'Brien. So thank you for being there as well, Elaine, when you got there. But that had everything to do with how and what I would do for the rest of my life, those relations. So if it wasn't for that part of my education and the part of the education that allowed me to be the bridge between first-time freshmen that were coming in through the migrant education program via camp or the education opportunity program, and being a mentee, being a student teacher, and being, a guest lecturer in many of the classes that I took or retook multiple times. Those experiences really formulated what kind of theater I made, what kind of dance I made, what kind of performance art I made, what kind of music I made, what kind of what style of art I would curate. Those were the folks that put me on this path. So you also asked what mediums are my preferred mediums, and I would definitely say that like everyday photography, documenting are kind of like how I breathe, and sometimes I'm kind of annoying to my loved ones because I don't know why the video is stuck on Malaquias right now. Probably it's at 20 and there's like 80. So that could be maybe tapped or something. Luis, por favor. I just noticed that. But so yeah, everyday photography, documenting, I think is my second is my kind of my go-to, my second language, aside from much English and Spanglish that I speak. I'm very honored to be back in a few of my practices since leaving the California Arts Council, and that is curating. Thank you, Elaine, for telling me that I had a little bit of something innate in me to trust and to investigate and to be in practice to find my way in doing that. And I've been able to do that off and on at wonderful places, currently at the hippie tea space in a park at 3200 Broadway. We have one of the phenomenal artists that we've been able to feature there via New Orleans. Thank you, Sharon. And my co-pilot Drusilla and Amy, who allowed me the power and the wings to make this show come to life. And so the first show that we did there was Sharon Oates' artwork. We also did Goss, Gerald Otis work, and right now we have the phenomenal Ruben Senor Reveles, who's teaching me a whole other language of NFTlandia and virtual, digital work. And the community is taking all of that in such a good way. So we're very pleased and honored that Leo has been such a champion in supporting that work, and that people like Maya also, Wallace is there to uplift that work and bring people into the space to do their own work in the presence of, and also walk away, with work to be on their walls while they do the work that they do, and be in their homes. They're getting well with that tea, and they're getting well with that delicious food, and they're also feeling very supportive of artists, which is why I do what I do. I'm an artist advocate, number one, in all the arts administration that I do. My theater is back in my life again in the way of just completing some work as a director at the Celebration Art Space, which is a 35-year-old Black run and device theatrical making space. And thanks to Kimberly Marshall and KT, I was able to be invited to direct a work called Smart People. And so we were able to bring people into that theater that hadn't been there throughout the whole pandemic. So that was quite an emotional and a blessed ritual to go through in my community. And of course I did that with the co-pilot power of Latrice, who's over at B Street. So go check out and support, Latrice out there. And there's also some work on the edge right now that's happening, and that's work with Roberto Patal, who's a professor at Sacramento City College. And they grew up in Sacramento, and they went to do some work in LA, and now they're in Oakland. But it's a short, it's a Sundance film that's gonna be out soon. We're going on set in the next couple of weeks, and so that's pretty wonderful in that, first of all, the title is dope. It's digital curanderas. Do digital curanderas use eggs in their limpias? And so it centers the visions and the stories of Roberto, and we celebrate queer, non-binary, also two-spirit, indigenous gentes in this work. Looks like the slides are stuck again. I don't know if you could put it in, like, you could either do it slow or you could put it on autopilot, so I don't have to keep giving them on. I don't know how to turn that one off. And so that is pretty exciting. I have my nibblings that are going to be in that for some of the work, which is awesome to take your family into your work and be with family around the work. Another project that's coming up is the title is changing. For now, it's something along the line of Intercultural Palabra Festival, and we will be celebrating poets and spoken word artists and some drama makers, some theater makers on the stage at California Stage, and that will be the last 2 weekends. We're proposing the last 2 weekends of April here in downtown Sacramento at Ray Tatter Space, 25th and R Street. And I'm getting to do that work under the tutelage of Professor Pickett, Manuel Pickett, as well as Gladys and Kimberly Marshall as part of Ma Series Arts. And so we're excited about that. There's also some playwriting in my life right now, and creating some work that's going to take probably a couple of years to create, but probably will be ready in a year to at least stage where we are in the process. And that's thanks to a residency invitation from 3GT or Three Girl Theater in San Francisco. And that happened because of the wonderful Morningstar Gali asking me to come in on this vision with her as her writer, as her playwright. And she is the guest artist in the house. And I'm helping her put her lived experiences and her visions and her prayers, and also the documentation of missing and murdered Indigenous peoples into an ofrenda of theater that we hope to be staging in places like Alcatraz, like Cyrus Fort, and other sacred spaces to be taken back in the way of telling our stories. So that's pretty exciting and in the works. También there's some work with Dancing Earth as a Khalifa honoree, part of a cohort there that is blending mindfulness, movement, and artivism in ways of performance and ways of dance. And that is led by Rulan. And Dancing Earth has been around for quite some time, and they're bringing us together virtually and in person to make new works and to inform new works. And so look out for some things happening there. And I think another question is how to tell you a little bit about my creative process. And really it's spirit led. Stan really talked about listening to the universe and listening to spirit and being in prayer and in meditation. And that really resonated with me because yes, that was learned from him and other people like Jessica Lamantis and Armando Cid, who were very, very grounded in spiritual people and practitioners around me that gifted those ways of being, right, in the midst of the chinga, in the midst of the hard running and the hard marching and the hard teaching. There was that time always to get a cura or to give a cura, to have hands on you for blessings and to learn how to put hands on to help bless others, whether it was through Reiki, whether it was through the Inipi, as Brother Lucky just shared with us where he was headed, but just making time for practice, and making time for ritual, whether that's alone, whether that's with community, whether that's with family, and whether you have the sage or the kopal, or whether you just have water, and thank you, Amy, for that water and those rocks that we get to roll on in Auburn, because that canyon that raised you has really been saving us when you harvest it. Another thing about my practice, I think, is like attraction and energies. Like I said, landing in the right place or flying to the right place and just trusting that pull, or trusting that faith. And relationships have so much to do with my process. So yeah. How do I get inspired to create? So sometimes it's my anger, sometimes it's my frustration, and other times it's my joy. Really a lot of listening, as most of us have probably had to do in multiple ways, much more differently than we had in the past. Listening, walks are always great. Swims and floats, or rolling down the river, as I like to do, literally. Sleep. Thank you, Amy, for reminding me of the power of our dreaming and, getting enough rest to dream. And a shout out to Sarah for, and to Smijo Soul about those walks. Those walks are very strong. The bike riding is very strong, and just the wind on me is just, when that happens, like, I want to write, I want to sing, I want to dance, I want to make something make sense, help make sense of all the things, right? Sometimes it's just like laughter, that I hear from my nibblings, or sometimes it's like my dad and his corajes, his frustrations, and I'm just like, okay, let me be in the moment and be inspired to teach him how to do what he's trying to do, because he's still trying to make that art. He's still trying to tell that story, and get it out to the world. So it could be many things. You have here, what does the process look like when working with other artists and communities? As I mentioned at the beginning at CSUS, it was really about being around people different than me and that look just like me, right? Really being around BIPOC gente, Black, Indigenous, folks of color, Asian Pacific Islander gente, just gente that could help me see the rest of the world right there around me, and make it relevant in such a way. And so what it looks like is being in community with them, being in practice with them, being humble to learn things from their perspectives, and not knowing everything, being open to learning in every moment possible. And then when asked, being one to share what I've been able to gather along the way, what has been passed down to me along the way. También in mutual housing, really, it's like sometimes it's through my work, and sometimes it's through my volunteer, my community action work. So it's putting myself in the middle, but not necessarily putting myself in front, right? It's putting myself alongside and putting myself in a way where, again, I'm a listener, and I allow folks to guide, or I am an observer. And then, when it's the right time to speak with and to exchange, then, that happens. And to always represent people that are not represented in the circles that you are, I think is very important. When folks are missing, then being an advocate on their behalf, in a respectful way, not speaking for them, but speaking in a way that people know that they are with those of us who are in that particular circle, in that particular room, and just bringing them into the spirit, or bringing their spirit into the space, bringing and acknowledging their spirit and their importance and their worth into the space. You asked about what is the connection between access to art, culture, capital, and the well-being of our communities. Relationships, to me, are the most important thing that allows for connection to happen, to foster, to bloom, to grow, and sustaining development plans, consistent or constant giving from those who have access to constant flow of income streams, I think is really important for organizations or foreign artists. That's key, I think, for those folks that start a small group or a large group or join a group. Like, there should always be consideration and talk and energy that goes to what is going to funnel and what is going to bring or what is going to attract either financial support or like conscious support or spiritual support, or whatever that organization needs to grow. Then I really believe that people need to constantly be working on that. It doesn't have to be the one person all the time, right? And I think navigating through grant systems and it's really important for people not to depend on grants, but I definitely encourage people to go out for grants all the time, partly because that's my job, but other reasons, it's really about educating folks that, don't be the person that's always in your own way. I've had to learn that the hard way many times over, like to get out of my way, right? So I love to share that with artists who I advocate for, or I serve, or they mentor me and I mentor them in different ways. It's really about understanding how you do belong in that circle. Whether you're a panelist or you're an applicant, you do belong there. Why? Because if you're not there, then the system continues to work against you. But if you're there, you're making a conscious effort, to challenge it, right? I think also that it's important for entrepreneurs, business owners, and Leo, props to you. Like, you're in my neighborhood, and you said, take the walls, do what you do, bring artists in, and I trust you, right? So being in that good relation, being in that good way, everybody, for lack of a better term, wins. Like, everybody comes up, everybody is lifted, everybody is affirmed, everybody is loved. And I think there's a lot of small businesses or entrepreneurs who feel like, man, I'm putting everything on the line, like I can't share anything, right? And so fear just that doesn't let everybody win. Definitely not even the one person, right? Might make things easier for you because you didn't welcome the web, but that's not always the way to go, right? So underwriting and sponsorships are really important when you have small organizations or you are an independent art maker, or you're starting to go out for grants, you have your nonprofit, like underwriters, sponsors, angel givers, like find folks that allow for the stream that they have coming in, for some of that to go towards you on a monthly basis, right? So that you're not constantly always having to ask and or to fight and or to spend time away from creating your artwork, to raise that for yourself, right? Have a strong relationship where like there's that nice balance, of folks believing and folks putting their money where their mouth is when they say that they support you. I think that's pretty important. And I think you asked, what informs my work. I think you see a lot of it here. It's action, it's joy, it's ancestors, it's orishas, it's homenajes, it's stories, it's memories, it's like lessons. A lot of it also is, healing, whether it's from depression or from grief, whether it's from, falling down and having to get back up again. And Lucy also asked, what motivates me to keep culture and history relevant? I kind of know no other way to be. Like I said, marching before walking. I think that kind of sums it up. Having teachers that show me that my work can be alongside their work. Having maestros that show me that barrio art is really not only about an art education experience, but a cultural way of reciprocity, a cultural way of imagining, a cultural approach to sustaining relationships, just being alongside each other is so important. And I think I'm at that place where I'm supposed to ask questions from you all or answer questions from you all. Thank you so much for listening to me share my responses to Luis's preguntas. Thank you for those questions. And I hope it's made sense in my collage kind of
cultura, mashup way. I think the floor is yours, gente.
Thank you very much, yAyA. If anybody has a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question directly, or if you prefer, put it in the chat. Thank you very much.
So, yAyA, it's so good to see you and to hear all the wonderful things you've done. Is there one project or one thing that you're most proud of, that you have the best memories of, or you feel was most successful?
You are the greatest. Thank you for being with me on many of those moments that you're asking me to pick one. Okay, so the one, honestly, is seeing Mama to JAH'Sol Amaru.
That's what I thought you'd say. If you
But in practice,
boy.
but in practice, I do reflect back on a wonderful time painting alongside next to you and David Kashuba when putting together the exhibit celebrating the life of Maestro Jose Montoya. Now, I hated that he wasn't there with us to tell us what to do and to pass something along the way, but I was happy that you called me to action in that time of celebrating his life and mourning his death. And you made me be in my practice. You didn't make me, you invited me. And you invited me to do that alongside me. So that just affirmed that I would continue along this trek of my charcoal foot travels and learn from it and grow from it and bring all those beautiful artists together. I mean, we had our your colleague, Frank Lapina, who came and spent time with us so that I could listen to him and dictate the story of when he met Jose, right? So that was a very special time. And I thank you for that.
I have such good memories of those things. They were beautiful for me too, and I learned a lot from you. I forgot to put my mic on. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Hey, sister. It's lovely to see you and lovely to see everyone here, whether it's your face or just your name. I was curious how this configuration came about tonight. I'm really honored to be invited. And I'm also I just want to tell you that I know just from knowing you and your spirit and all the ways that we've shared paths over the years that you are such a blessing for everybody who gets to work with you or encounter your energy. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity to celebrate. I know a lot of the phenomenal things you've done, and it's wonderful to hear even more. So I just want to send you props also. And then my question, besides how this came about this evening, is also if you could talk a little bit more about how motherhood or being a parent has impacted your artistic process and journey.
Thank you, all the way from New Orleans, Rose Sharon, as we like to call you, Ro. I think that Amaru coming into my life really helped heal a lot of yAyA, who I didn't ever really make time to heal before. The work continues. It's I feel like it's never ending, but it's gonna end. When I transition, of course. But saying yes to motherhood, there was a seed that I lost prior to Soul. So Soul really helped fill a really sad place for me. And I didn't know if I could ever have a child because of losing the first seed, right? And so when he came, I just did everything in my power to take care of the temple and just, you know, be the first dance studio or the first residency for that, you know, little being that I like to call Buddha, be here. And he's really taught me to slow down, and he really has continued to be the advocate for yAyA to do a little less and to be a little bit less occupied with what everybody thinks and be better about what I think about me. And so that's very different, because from my parents I learned, you know, how to please everybody, right? How to cause trouble, but how to always like take care of everybody and please everybody, right? We're Southern, you know, that's kind of like how you do, you know that. So just finding a better balance in that. I think I've been able to find better balances for the collaborations, you know, that have manifested, and ones that have like appeared, like getting to work on this story for missing and murdered Indigenous people. You know, what an honor to be asked to come in as a playwright for some work like that. And I didn't mention Ebony Harper, who's a phenomenal queen trans activist and survivor. They too would like me to help them create work for the stage. So there's actually 2 invites to put lived experiences into a cathartic healing and production offering Homenaje ceremony soon. Yeah, and I think what also helped slow me down a little bit was revolving around him. You know, I named him Sol, and I was following and revolving and documenting and watching a young person, a young being find their way as a Renaissance, you know, creative. So I think that really helped the calm before this positive storm, this positive reawakening of being back in many of my practices.
Thank you.
And I think it came to be, this came to be because, you know, Luis here is a curator, and he curated the show that's named behind him. And I'm not in the show per se, but he says, I was putting this show together and I thought, man, you've done all these types of things, or you've worked with all these people. Do you want to be a part of this? Can you come talk to us and tell us about all your things? So thank you, Luis, for including me in the Platica part of the exhibition.
Oh, thanks to you. And yeah, this show came together with thanks to a grant that we got from the GenteChicana SOYmos fund. And yeah, the idea was first together to bring artists from the Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, and Mexican community that in one way or another have been collaborating with Sol. Unfortunately, it was really a small grant, so we were not able to bring more artists because there is too many artists that have participated in Sol Collective, so we had to limit that. But at the beginning it was more visual artists, but then I was also considering, okay, I should bring also some other artists that are not necessarily into the visual art part, but in the performance art part. That's what I think about Jennifer Andrea, and wanted to invite her to do this talk. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for that consideration. I see someone was another alumni from the conference, Adriana. So yes, that, you know, it was a beautiful time, and I got to go like three or four times, and probably back as a presenter maybe another 5 or 6, 7 times. I don't know, I lost track. Chris, you have something to ask me? You always make me ask you something after we have good food.
Nothing specific, love. Just that I love you and you're fabulous.
I love you and think you're fabulous. Oh, you know you're fabulous.
Thank you.
see, Jamie.
Can you say
Here, it's an honor to be here.
Jamie, can you try again?
Hear me?
I heard hear me.
Love it. Let me see.
Gisela, thank you again for your advising and calming. I felt you sending me that earlier. And Javi, thank you for being here. I hope you saw your work. And Layla, I hope you saw you on my screen, our screen. Maya, thank you. Which Andrea is out there? Oh, here's Layla's question. Is there any advice you would give to a 20-something-year-old self? I love you very much. I don't know, age is a funny thing, so I kind of can't remember when certain things happen. 20-year-old self, just keep trusting yourself and keep writing out your visions and your goals and study all and any things that call you. Do them in a clumsy way, but also study them, study who is kind of leading the way and or who has passed on the torch, right? Like the predecessors, always go back to the OGs. I think is really important, and I think, like if it wasn't for Pearl Primus, if it wasn't for, Catherine Dunham, like there would be no way that I found who I am, So it's really Judith Jameson, like, just find those ancestors, make offerings to those ancestors, talk to those ancestors, and make relationships with those that are here and present. Don't think that anybody is too big or too famous to talk to or to share your ideas or dreams with, because like this film, for example, when I saw the call out, I sent it out to, all the 30 somethings and the 20 somethings, right? But I thought I need to audition myself. And I know I'm not going to make the role of the lead or the co-lead, because one, age, and two, or three, four, I got in my way, right? But what I felt was, if I don't get in front of this camera and show this person who I am, or their team who I am, they're going to miss out on things that they're not thinking about in making this film. And I know they're going to see it. They're not going to understand it, but they're going to see it and they're going to trust it. I'm going to get a call. And it just so happened to be that that prayer worked. And the call was, come in and be the ancestor of this lead. And then they said, no, actually, we're going to rewrite the script. We want you to be the mother who wasn't in the script before, but is in the script now. Because we see you and hear you, right? And so I get to be in this collective of, 20 somethings and 30 somethings, making this phenomenal story come to life in a way that I wish I would have written something like this when I was 20 something, right? But I kept getting in my way, and I kept thinking I didn't know enough, right? For certain things. And so this was like saying yes to that 20-year-old self, and like putting myself out there, knowing that it was going to land where it needed to land, and something was going to grow. Does that make sense? Thank you all so much for your time. Are we over or are we on time? We're in time, as they say.
We're just in time.
I love you all.
thank you everyone that joined us tonight. And I invite you to see the virtual exhibition. And let me just put the link on the chat, so if you haven't had a chance to see the exhibition, so you can check it out.
That's Hobby's work there, right to the left of Amy, or Aim Reed up in Auburn. Virgen right there, Chola Virgen sister.
Thank you. So I shared the link to the virtual exhibition. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's just using some of the technologies that are available during these times, just to continue promoting and showing the work of different artists. And also, all these series of talks on the panel discussion will be available. Most likely, we're gonna create a web page inside Soul Collective website, so you can go back and see these talks again. Thank you very much, yAyA, for being here, doing this presentation. And thank you all of you that joined us tonight. And just to close this thing, I would like to share a little music movement. And thank you very much, Tlazokamati. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight. And hope to see you soon in person. Meanwhile, is still virtually. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. Have a good rest of your night and take care.
Muchas gracias, everyone. Take care.